Welcome back to another episode of the 9.8 podcast. Um, just like last week, this week is going to be a little bit different than how we normally do it. They are a little bit shorter episodes. We're covering specific topics and kind of getting previous guests on here, getting their take on it. So we kind of surveyed them about these questions and see what the responses are. We will resume back to normal, longer length episodes in the coming weeks once things start to our availability start opening up. Maybe get some more in-person ones. We'll see. But for this week, we've got a topic, and it is our favorite 10th events. So for those of you who aren't aware, and you might be aware by now, the Highland Games has 9 events. In the United States, we have 9 events. Other places, they have 8. They cut out Chief. But for our purposes, this is called the 10th event because we live in America and freedom and whatnot. So the 10th event is a special event that's not necessarily counted towards the day. It's generally not counted at all towards the day. It's a special thing, generally for fun or for some prize money. But they are strength related or sometimes just for fun, right? They're funsy kind of things. I've done a plethora of 10th events over my years, and I have a favorite, and I surveyed everyone and get their favorite. Like some of the ones I've done like natural stone, like to shoulder or to like loading, shield carries, which like a Husafel type carry for like distance under time and things like that. Sometimes that's just we just did it for fun because it was there. Farmers carries where we had like normal farmer carry for distance when we had like a minute or a minute and a half or something like that time to do it in, which felt like a lot of time while you're doing it. And I've done snow carries, shield carry, farmer carry, half weight wob, which each group will throw a lighter implement wob. So like the men would throw the 28, women would throw the 14, whatever their lightweight is, that's what they'll throw for height. And it's really fun because it gets to go high. Then I've also done like an anvil toss, and there's more. I'll probably come up with some of the other ones as we go along. But like I've done a lot of different ones. But I do too have a favorite. And my favorite, let's go with my favorite. My favorite is half weight wob, and the reason for that is because it goes high. It's not heavy. I have a lot of fun doing it. Everyone because no one's used to the timing of it. Because when you're really good at wob, like you have a specific timing for the weight that you throw. It's very, very deliberate in how you do it. But half weight wobs, you can't just do it but go faster. Like it's a little bit. There's a little bit more to it than that, and it makes it super fun. And it's like not a thing that anyone ever practiced. Like some of the stones in like carrots like that. If you like dabble in like strongman kind of stuff, like you've kind of done some of these other things, so it's not completely foreign to you. But half weight wob seems like it's very odd. It's not a normal thing you would do. And I've done it previously where I've thrown like something that was way too light. The beauty of half weight is that it's not so light that it gets dangerous. I've thrown there was a games here in Kansas that the AD made children's weights, youth size weights, and used in like an oil, like a cylinder oil filter, attach it to a handle, and you can throw that for height. The children did. Well, we had a bit of a break in the game. It was a storm delay, and we decided to go out there and play with that. We were launching it so freaking high that we're losing this white filter in the overcast clouds. Like we're like, oh crap, where's it coming down at? Very, very dangerous because that thing were to hit you, like you're cooked. It's game over at that point. But I don't know how much that weighed, like 8 pounds or something like that. It was far too light. and so like super dangerous. I've also thrown I think it's a 60 plus masters, like women's lightweight, where it was looked like a normal weight, but it was just a shell. There was no lead on the inside of that weight, so like it weighed nothing. It's like 8 pounds, something like that. And I launched that thing like I was doing weight for distance. I threw it, and then it went 200 feet, and I was frightened where it was going to land because it went way too far. And my buddy Skylar Arneson, he's like, "All right, my turn." And I was like, "Dude, do not. I know what you want to do. You want to go really hard. You want to just huck this thing. Please don't do that because it's gonna fly, and God knows where it's going to land. So just like one turn that." So he gave like a big one turn, and he was like, "Holy crap, that's a good idea to not like womp on it because it just no telling where it's going to go." But half weight wob isn't that light. It goes high. It goes really high. Um, it goes double the height of your wob, which is fun. You need sheath standards to do it, which is reasonable. Pretty much every game has sheath standards, um, but that's one of the ones that like I think it's another reason why I think it's the best and one of the most fun is the fact that um, all the athletes on the field will try it. Because they're familiar with it. Like a lot of ones aren't going to go try to do like stone to shoulder or whatever because like they're just very familiar with it. So everyone gets to participate in this one. Very cool. Austin, his favorite 10th is folding chair for distance. He's get a standard folding chair. I think he did this in it might have been South Dakota or North Dakota. It was one of the Dakotas, right? And it's a normal metal folding chair that is like zip tied. The legs are zip tied closed, so it doesn't just open up on you. And he's talking about like if you get a good two turn on this thing, like he's like, and the wind catches just right, like a discus, like it'll just take off and sail, which is super cool. He's like, it's going 200 feet easy. And I was like, that's freaking awesome because it's an oddball event for like that like it's kind of like it being an odd event is quite like standard for the Highland Games. Like, of course, we're going to do something weird like throw a folding chair. Um, and he just anytime we bring up 10th events, he's like, that's the one. Like more games need to like bring that out. And I was joking. I'm like, man, we got some good wins right now. Like, I got a folding chair. My brother left a couple folding chairs from Christmas dinner at my house, and I told him I was like, I might have to test one of these bad boys out because they're good commercial chairs. I think they can take a beating. Uh, I don't know if I'm going to do that or not, but it'd be cool. Um, yeah, but he said like the chairs hold up pretty well unless you get like guys like Kyle McKelvey out there who is at the time was just a freaking ogre of a Highland Games athlete, and apparently he took one pull on it and just exploded it. And I guess that's kind of par for the course if you're as a monster of thrower as he was for sure. Um, let's go to like John Oden. So like again, I surveyed all the previous guests who were on here. We got Danny Autry, Emily Adams, brother Josh McIntosh from No Fame Game, Haley Gow, and John Oden. These are the ones I got responses back from. So here we go. John's he wanted a stone lift or any kind of a carry, which is very funny for him. Or like again, par for the course. John's a big proponent of like weighted carries, like specifically training for the Highland Games, like and a lot of off season work. It's very good for your core. Um, it's very like your core, right? Everyone uses that word, but like just like being able to stay erect in like your events, your weights, especially your heavyweight, dealing with the 56, like it wants to pull you down. Be able to have that abdominal strength, like laterally and whatnot. Different types of carries will get you. That would be suitcase carry and things like that. So he's a huge proponent of that, and it's very interesting that that's the 10th event for him. So I'm imagining like a big shield carry or something like that for distance. Like that's something that's right up his alley, of course. And being how would you describe John? he's like he's a mountain man that does strength sports. He's all about like being in the woods, being like a natural, like primal type human, and and how that benefits you in athletics and things like that. So of course, like a natural stone lift is right up his alley. Um, then we got Haley Gow, which um, she said that she would like for a 10th event would be a heavy ass stone put, which is fun because like you don't get to see those very often. There's been a couple games, I think Portland, previously back in the day, like pre-new Portland. I'm not sure how it works out now, but if I recall, they were the ones that had like 100 pound like Portland stone. You could throw it from two hands, and like that was your Braemar for the day. If I recall, I mean, if I'm wrong, write in, let me know, and I'll make a correction. But I think that's what one of the places they did like heavy stone put. Um, and I think even and so technically that won't be a 10th event. That might be part of the actual 9 or however many they're doing. I know Pleasanton, their Braemar, that big old beach ball that you see in like all the pictures and videos. I think they're calling it the Vieira Stone now. I think that weighs like 28. That's heavy, but that's not a heavy ass stone put. That's still part of like their Braemar. That's their standard thing. Uh, but you see them around like sometimes like they'll be like engraved like the weight, like there's like a little prize stone that they'll do, and it's for distance, which a lot of 10th events aren't really distance events. A lot of them are height. Oh, that's another one that I haven't, or I've done, but I didn't mention earlier. I've done like kegs for height and kegs for distance. Keg for height, I do not like because I'm not tall enough to go between my legs, and I'm not coordinated enough to spin it accurately. Um, so, like the one time I did it was in Oklahoma at the American Heritage Highland Games. No longer around. Um, they go away sometimes. Sometimes they just go away. But they had a 10th event, and it was a keg for height. And I don't think I made the opening height, which was a real bummer because I wasn't doing super hot that day, and I needed to get a little win, and I didn't. But that's how it goes. All right. So Haley says heavy ass stone put, which is cool. It's unique. Not everyone does it, and I'm able to think about it. I think some of that too is like when you think of like stones, um, in like the sense of strength sports and Highland Games and things like that, they're generally to pick up, right? They're not ever really to throw. Um, they actually even in the Arnold, which is very cool, the Arnold Strongman Classic, they had a heavy stone put. I don't know how heavy it was. Maybe it was 150 pounds. I think the women's was like 75, maybe. Fact check me on that. Again, the fact checkers come out of the woodwork, tell me I'm wrong. But they were heavy, but they're heavy enough that they can throw. And they threw into sand pit on stage, and that was very cool because they're throwing stuff. And when strongman does throwing stuff, I'm all for it. I'm like, yes, like I get it. Like doing it like a 1,700 pound yoke for distance, like I don't get it. Never done one, but throwing stuff, like I get it. I understand it, and it's very cool to watch, right? But again, when you're thinking of like stones in the Highland Games strongman strength kind of sense, it's always to pick up. It's never to throw. So I think that may be one of the reasons why you don't see too many games doing a heavy stone put for a 10th event, is just because it's not really the forefront of our mind. You think of lifting it, and that's the lift, and they're usually way heavier than you would throw them, right? Because a 300 pound like smooth granite stone, you're not going to throw that. You're probably going to put that to your shoulder, so you're definitely not going to throw it. And Haley also wrote in. She has said like heavy ass stone put or a natural stone lift, uh, and that's very like it's very common, it seems, on these people that I've surveyed, and like other people I've just talked to. They like the natural stones. It's very trendy right now, and you see it even in strongman. Um, that heavy stones are very popular. There are like pretty much like everything from World's Strongest Man to Arnold, Giants Live. Like they've all in recent years have dabbled in natural stone lifting. Um, and so I think that's it. That's kind of like helping pave the way. Like either that's the catalyst for the popularity of stone lifting, or it's kind of just naturally coming out that like retired Highland Games athlete, that's like the natural transition. There's two things you could do as a natural or a retired Highland Games athlete. You get into archery. Sorry, three things: archery, jujitsu. You go to the Joe Rogan kind of route, or you go the natural stone lifter. I'm gonna travel the world and like find historic rocks and pick them up. Those are like the three retirement options. But the natural stone tour guys uh, might be helping pave the way for like just the popularity of it and why it's showing up in World's Strongest Man and Giants Live and the Arnold and things like that. But showing up on my list a lot, natural stone lifts. Um, but so yeah, so Brother Josh, he said natural stone lift or a thumb war, which two opposite ends of the spectrum here. And I think maybe this should, hey, call me crazy, but I think thumb wars should just be reserved for like solving ties. Like, you just get in there and just dominate your opponent as we do. That's, and then, so then we got Emily Adams. She said keg for distance. She's the only one that had kegs on here, which is interesting because and it's kind of showing like the trend of like where we're kind of at, like what we're doing as athletes now, what we want to see, what we want to do. It used to be when I first started, 6, 7 years ago, that was like, if you go to a Highland Games, there's going to be a little pony keg, and that's what you're going to throw. You're going to throw that for a 10th event. It's just sitting there. That's going to be the thing that you play with. Now there's a whole gamut of things that like you're running into, and but yeah, like I said earlier, keg for distance is better than keg for height for me specifically because it is what it is. And then, but back on the kegs, I would like to see a little bit more kegs in Highland Games for the 10th event, just not part of the actual event, because that's ridiculous. Like just silliness after, have kegs available because they're fun to do, right? Even if you're throwing them for height, they're still fun. And like the barrier to entry is low. More people can do them, and it's throwing, so like we understand that as opposed to lifting big rocks. And maybe this might be a selling point to the ADs is that sure, we all want to lift heavy things, but you have to move a giant rock from place to place. An empty keg weighs like 30 pounds at most. They're nothing. I used to work for a beer and Red Bull distributor, and so I would throw kegs around all day. And it was funny when I first started working there. I've already been throwing for a while, and so I've been lifting pretty well. And I used to joke with the guys that like, oh, this is it's all prep work. It's all GPP at this point, hucking kegs around, whether it be full or empty. And then I'd show them like videos of you throwing kegs after games, and they're like, oh wow, like you were built for this. I'm like, no, I built myself for this. There's a difference. But the last guy we surveyed was Danny Autry, and he, it's Danny, right? He gave me his answer, and he said mud wrestling. And my first thought was, I don't know how they do it in Alaska, but down south here, in where the normal people live, I don't know if we're getting into a lot of mud wrestling. But I like where his head's at. Could be something to look into. Uh, or he said natural stone lift, like a natural stone load or a natural stone lift, because I'm quoting him here. Nothing is better than big naturals. So I don't know. I don't know what that means. But what I do see is that pretty much everyone except Emily Adams wrote in they wanted some kind of a stone, which is, again, popularity of the stone. We all like rocks. Doesn't matter how big or small they were, rock people. What's interesting too, this is something we could probably get into on like with guests, is we do the bro nerd spectrum. We've kind of determined that in the Highland Games there are two types of people: bros and nerds, and like kind of where you fall into that category, because you're going to be pretty heavy on one side. There are very few people that kind of float the middle. There's very obvious nerds and very obvious bros, generally speaking, and we're putting people in a box here and categorizing them. I understand that, but I think a common denominator for all of us is probably going to be that we've had rock collections growing up, and it just expanded into something that we had no control over, like Highland Games and stone lifting. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I had a rock collection. I know a lot of other people who still do collect random little rocks, and they're also now into bigger rocks. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe we'll add that to the bro nerd spectrum. Did you collect rocks? We've added questions in the past from guests. Maybe we'll add this one in there. I don't know where that stands as far as bro and nerd goes, but what I do know is I think we're all rock people. But that's it. So pretty much, to sum it all up, natural stones are the way to go. That's what we all want to do because they're hard. I've done a few after games, which, funny enough, is not the best time to be trying to lift big stones after you've been cooking in the sun all day, and then you're like, oh, now I'm going to go lift rocks. That's just asking for an injury, but we do it. There's so many things that we do that aren't healthy, but whatever. I lifted the lunchroom stone in Massachusetts. It's it's getting to be quite a historic stone. It's got a nice history to it. The guy who created it is no longer with us, but he left behind a really sick stone. And what's cool about this one, it's not like a natural stone to like shoulder or anything like that. It is a ring handle on a chain attached to this giant. Oh, man, it's like 320 pounds, I think. I could be wrong. I can't remember exactly how heavy it is, but I know it's really heavy. You got to lift it one-handed, unsupported. That means like your other hand's like off, and you pick up between your legs, kind of like sumo. Um, I've seen people doing it without a hook grip, and I was like, they have like, I don't know, Mark Felix like type grip. I did a hook grip, and it was pretty cool. Another one that I've done, or I tried to, I gave it the minimal amount of effort needed to like say I tried it, and that was after the Utah Utah Scottish Festival in Salt Lake, and they had a bunch of stones out there because Utah does a lot of cool things, right? One of the cool things is they've got quite the strength culture like attached to the state, right? They've got a bunch of strongmen, a bunch of power lifters, a bunch of Highland Games athletes, a bunch of like natural stone lifters, and it's becoming like a part of like their culture, their niche like strength culture. That there's a lot of them out there, and they're doing a lot of things, and they're really into it to the point where Utah even has like their own state Highland Games championship, which is one of I think two states that have an actual like state championship, which is freaking amazing for them that they have that level of population that compete in the games. So I know in Kansas and Austin and Nebraska, like we don't have a population of Highland Games athletes. We have a few, and like I could probably sit here and name everyone in Kansas who's competed in Highland Games in the last like couple years. Not that many of us, but if we did have a Kansas State championship, I'll win the pro class every year because there's no one else. It's undefeated. I'll be undefeated. Oh, dude, we could have an amateur challenge me to see if they could beat me, they could take my spot at games. No, well, more I think about it, that's a bad idea because we got like guys like Coach Hauser coming up, and dude's a beast, and I'm not going to do that. But the point is with Utah is that at the Utah Scottish Festival on the Friday before the games, they have like a stone lifting competition where they all lift a bunch of rocks. Very cool. And those rocks are still there the next day. So when we were done this was lightweight nationals, we decided like, oh yeah, let's give it a go. I got underneath it and got one little pull on it, and I felt my bicep go oop, and I was like, we're not even going to try it because we're not going to tear a bicep because I had to go to Alaska the next weekend, and I really didn't want to miss out on that because that was a very cool games. Had I torn my bicep, wouldn't have gone, and that would have been a bummer. So, sum it all up again. Stone lifting is the way to go. Stone lifting is cool, but I think we should see more kegs because they're low barrier to entry for fun. Um, but let us know in the comments like what your favorite 10th event is. Ones you've done, ones you want to do, ones you think more games should be doing. Let us know in the comments because I really want to see them. I want to hear your guys' opinion on this. Um, but again, just like I said in the previous episode, these are going to be a little bit shorter. I do apologize for that. We're going to get back to like normal before too long, but it's wintertime, it's off season. Content slows down, but it'll pick up. Fear not. Again, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. It really helps me out. It really helps me see that you guys are like watching, enjoying, being engaged. Helps the algorithm, more people to see it. We want the games to grow. These are all things that we got to do that. So help me out. I love making these videos for you guys. So just thank you. And as always, throw far. God bless.